Okay, we are going to be looking at Le Plus by Debussy. Now, Le Plus, which is probably not a very authentic pronunciation of the word, but it means the more than slow. It's been suggested that this is a parody of a particular slow waltz genre that Debussy might be sort of making fun of in this piece. So it's slowly, it's with lots of rubato. Things to think about in this piece particularly is how you shape the melody and how you bring it out. In lots of ways it's not that hard to play once you've sorted out the 6 flats, but getting the music to feel like it's moving and to feel like that melody is being brought out is the challenge. So grab your pencil and let's mark some things on the music. Hopefully you've marked that it's a waltz, so you've picked up in the corner of the music it says waltz, and we've got 6 flats. So 6 flats is everything except 1. That means every flat except F flat. So the opposite of G major, basically. So F is not a flat, but what that does mean is we've got all the black notes and C flat to think about. So you might need to make an extra copy of your music and highlight which notes are black notes just to help process it. There's also a few double flats if you haven't seen double flats before. So if there's B double flat, we go B, we go flat, and we go flat again. So it looks like A. The reason it's not written as A is it's to do with what scale the Debussy is thinking about in that moment, in that bar. So for instance, in the bar 2, we've got an A flat in the top line. We can't then put an A natural in the bottom line and be true to the harmony, so it's B double flat instead. Okay, so we start, the first 2 notes are marked with staccato dots, so I like to do them without pedal to bring out this very gentle beginning. If you're playing grand, just have to be careful that you actually get the hammer to get over the, I think it's called an escarpe, that bump which is under the keys. If I go too soft, then we get no sound. So we don't want that. We want a nice start to that. Now, once we've got going, this is our melody. And then crescendo. Whoops, I missed the C flat there. So that's the first section up to, I don't have bar numbers, but up to where it returns to the original movement. Okay, so now the trick in that, so that's your melody. So you think about how can I shape that melody with the phrasing? How can I make climaxes? And lucky that we're, the Durand edition, which is one of the early editions, is available on IMSP, and these crescendos have been marked in, I assume by the composer, since it's an early edition. So there's that. Now, here we've got the melody in the top hand. The inner part needs to be gentle. Gentle with that inside. And gentle with the inside. So for that chord there, that's quite hard. We want that note the loudest. So we need to tilt our hand so that the weight is on that top note and this inner part doesn't get accented. So gentle, there's that F again. Now here, see, we want the weight on that note there. And then gentle the inner part. Again, gentle the inner part. But we're crescendoing to this note, that's the climax. So that probably should have been a bit louder in there. So it's got to be softer than the E flat, but it needs to match the dynamic a little bit to create that nice richness. And here's our climax for this moment. Now we hold that. Oops. And then connect as much as you can. So because we need to kick that so much, I'm playing the note, change the pedal, play the note, change the pedal, play the note, change the pedal, then play the note, change the pedal quickly after it. So note, pedal, getting softer, and then soft. Now you've got that big stretch there, and so because of the big stretch, we're going to do thumb and thumb again, and we need to make it as connected as possible. We may need to do a pedal change because it might get too blurry. So we pedal change on the first note. So I was at the very last two notes, I really wanted to do a pedal change on each note. I might have changed the pedal in the middle there too. It started to get a bit blurry, but because it's piano or quiet, you can get away with it. Nah, I couldn't, but you can decide for yourself if it's not, it doesn't sound too blurry. But listen, we don't want an over blur, but we do want this impressionist style blur there. And then, we've got this retinue, which is slow down, slowing down, and slower, 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 and then we're back to the first movement with the same idea that melody comes out, and I sort of feel like something new is happening. Maybe the sun's just shone out a little bit, although there's moments later which I really feel like the sun, but something's changed, something's become more clear, and you want to bring that out. Okay, I wonder, should I play it? You've got the recording where I play the whole thing straight through. So those inner parts, looking where those climaxes are, and making sure the retinue keeps this continuous pulse. I'll try and count it. So I'll go from 2 bars before the retinue. 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 1 and 2. So see how I should have connected that hand while this hand lets go, and then there's our now back to that beautiful idea coming through. With this piece, practicing it, I am using pedal. I'm talking about pedal. When you first learn it without the pedal. You want to make sure the fingers are doing everything right, the notes are holding. When you've got that high E flat in the second line, that you don't let go of it too early. Hold, and top note and bottom note. So I'll do that again. So you've got the E flat chord, then E flat, G flat, hold it, play the inner part, top notes, bottom notes, and then that bit I connected with the pedal on each note, didn't I? And then inner part. So the inner part is softer, top part again, and then we'll have to let go and do our pedal change. I feel like that can get just a tad faster, and that allows us to retinue here, and 1 and 2 and then we're back to movement. So I'll keep going, bring out that top note melody. Something else to be careful about in that part is where the rest happens. So we've got the F and rest, chord, rest, chord, rest, the top note, rest, together, rest, and I'll keep going. So animé un peu, so getting a little more animated, so possibly a bit faster, climax. So just be careful that is not bigger than that. That's the biggest. It's still big, but not quite as big. And there's our melody. And then we go on surround. So we start hurrying. And then we get softer. Slower, and softer. Okay, so I'll count through that. So the fingering to do, if you don't have suggested fingering in there, you might want to mark, choose some fingering cues. You can use the fingering I've used, or you can make up your own. But definitely mark what you're going to do, so you do the same every time there. So I'll go just before that. I'll go just 1 bar before the no, 2 bars before the enseron. 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 1 off. And then there's a pause, a pause over a quaver. So it's not actually going to be huge, but there's going to be some break in the sound there. Pedals off, everything's off for a moment. Now, if you've seen the movie Finding Nemo, when you see the retinue, think of when Dory says, I can speak whale. And really what she means is hello. She means she can say the syllables slower. And so I feel like this counting is 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and so it's like counting Dory. And then we've got this pause, which has to fit in that Dory count before we bring in some sunshine with the new bit that's coming in. So I'll just demonstrate that one more time. Idea comes through. The only other thing I want to say is when it says on Sarong, you don't want to suddenly change speed. You want that gradually getting faster to come in like it's blending in. And then when you've got the retinue, it doesn't mean immediately slower. We're still starting fast. We start fast because that's where we finish. So we start fast and we gradually get slower. You don't want to pull back too quickly or the music comes to a halt. And you don't want that to ever happen here. Okay, so we'll go to the next section. So I've got this idea that the sun has come out, that lovely crescendo as we go up, and then this needs to be softer, but I also imagine it held back. So the rubato speeds allows a little bit of a speed up on the ascent and then pull back on the crotchets. And getting faster now, hold back. And getting faster now, hold back. And getting faster now, and getting faster now, and we're getting louder as well. And then and I missed the soft. So we had crescendo, then we suddenly get soft. And that was the right note. And then hold back and soft. Then we're suddenly MF. So there's a few things, and I lost it when I was trying to count it. We've got this crescendo happening. We've got a sudden soft. We're getting faster. We're pulling back. So there's beautiful counterplay. Now what I'm doing with the pedal, I don't need any pedal there because I've got my rest pedal. And then on the hold back, so I'm holding there, I change my pedal on the hold. Hold, change, back. Play this note, pedal change, and getting faster. Play this note, pedal change, hold back. Pedal change after the C flat, pedal change, and getting faster. Pedal change on this note, pedal change. Pedal, sorry, Mr. See that? Pedal change now, so up, down. Pedal change, so pedal the foot's up as I play the note and put it back down again before I get to that note. Pedal change, and then suddenly soft. So that last note here is loud, pedal change, and then we have the soft. So that loud note at the first beat of the bar actually carries through in the blur. And then hold back, pedal change, and the A flat, then pedal change, still soft. There's a little crescendo there, hold back, and still soft for that note. Now sunshine. Now when I'm hearing this, I so often hear this. And I don't want that accented. So it's overall is loud, but that second chord in the bar, the chord on the second beat needs to be weaker. I'll turn the page. Weaker. I like to do two pedal changes there because I don't like it oversaturated. Pedal change, inside chord, pedal change. Pedal change, inside chord, pedal change. Oops, I missed it. Pedal change. It's still loud here. And then it's suddenly soft. Getting louder. What's that chord? That one there. And then it's says slow down and diminish rapidly, or diminish a lot. So really bring that slower, and then we're back to our first movement. Oops, got the wrong chord there. So yes, it's not such a hard bit. As I was playing, I was debating, do I want to change the pedal on the second chord or do I want to let it hold? So you can decide. It does depend a little bit on the room you're in and how dry it is. So that was pedaling once per bar. Sometimes it felt a bit heavy in this room. As I said, you can judge by your own room carpet. Makes you need more pedal, like longer pedals. This room has timber floors and double brick cement, so it's reflecting the sound quite a lot. And so I probably tend to change the pedal a bit often. So we've got that soft bit, and then we've diminished molto, and we're back to the movement. We go back to the beginning, slowing down, and we're back to this beginning idea. Not the same notes, but the same rules. So we've got the melody, we've got the soft chords underneath, bringing out that top note. And now we've got a crescendo, which is taking us from PP to F within one bar. So it's going to move quick. Oh, did I play that note yet? That was too much, wasn't it? It's because I stopped to talk. The C flat in that, which is there. Louder, 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 louder. So there's your climax. So it's quite quick in how it changes. Still missed that note. That's we're setting a bad example, isn't it? That's why we practice slowly. And here's our forte. And then we're scared. Again, we've gone from forte, and we've got to very quickly get soft. But if we just go back to that forte bar, we've got that note there, and then we've got these ones which are loud, but not going to be as loud as the first beat of the bar. And then we suddenly get softer. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. So I'll do that in slow motion. 1, oops, wrong note. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. There's no note on 1. Because then this is on and 2 and 3 and it says to start getting faster, right? So if I went back to that one there, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and soft and 1 and 2 and 3 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 and sorry, I lost my place on the page, and then we get softer and slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. Pause, and now the sun comes out. So there's lots happening in here. So hopefully we're going to and fro a little bit. So hopefully you've been writing down those things. So we've got this new idea now, and we've got a key change. So we've gone from 6 flats to 3 sharps. And the same idea, keep the inner parts lighter and bring out the top melody and getting louder. Now it says yield, sorry, and or give way. So yield and suddenly piano. So we've been piano, we've done a crescendo, and now we're giving way again. If you haven't come across a double sharp before, at the end of that, the bar that says, it looks like Cedez, but I think it's pronounced Cede, there's an F sharp, and then there's an F double sharp, which looks like G, because it's F sharp, sharp. And well, I'll go back to where it says Cede. Now it says, yield even more. Here's your double sharp. There's also an E sharp to worry about in there. And then here's, again, we've got B. With that, double sharp's tying, so I need to worry about the B sharp and the F sharp. And then that leads us into our surprise and more animated tempo. So I might go back to on animals so you can hear it in context. Yes. And I was doing lots of pedal changes. Note, pedal change, pedal change, pedal change. Oops, there's notes. Pedal change, pedal change. So every crotchet I was changing pedal. A bit hard to play the right notes and say all that at once, but I don't know if you can see the pedal from where there. And so if you just, after you play the chord, change the pedal. Pedal, chord, pedal, 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 pedal. And same here. Pedal, 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 pedal. So if you practice slowly to make sure that pedal comes just up note, note, pedal, not pedal and note at the same time. Otherwise it goes a bit weird. Now, even though it says tempo anime all the way to the end of that section, I like to pull back here to get ready for this less minus animation, less animated. So from tempo anime, and bring out the top note melody, and crescendo, and there's our climactic note. So we've got the same thing. We've got that inner part gentle. We've got the left hand gentle on the off beats of the bar, and the melody coming out nice and strong. And here's our climax. Same idea as the previous tempo anime, but just a few notes higher. Getting softer and slower. And then obviously we have an annoying page turn, which you would memorize the piece, so you don't need to do. And it says slowing down again. So we can have a little bit of a speed up on those upward quavers, but overall we're getting slower. Now it says very slowing down. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, and then it's back to speed. So remember that counting Dory idea. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and surprise. And even though it says PP, bring out that top note melody, just that's it. Hey, I'm saying something. We don't want a decrescendo that goes so soft that we miss this. Hey everyone, I'm bringing back my first idea in my original key. So hey, take a listen. And I think it's pretty much note for note without going back and pairing. Actually, I'll go from Trey's Retinue so you can hear as it crosses into the section. While I'm trying to play, I'd pull back just that little bit on the forte, so you're giving a bit of space and grandeur to that moment for your listeners to hear. So we've got and then that space, pedal change on every note there, pedal change, and then slowing down 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and more soft pupil, and then now the sun comes out and we have this lovely roll in that hand. And make sure, again, even though that's MF, that note is gentle, because that's the off beat. This inner part to watch out for. While we don't accent it too much. Inner part. Now when we do that, we want that inner part not to be as loud as the outer part. Pedal change. I should talk about where the pedal changes are, shouldn't I? So pedal change on that chord, off and in change a pedal after you play the inner part. So inner part, pedal change on that note. Now when we play this, if we're going to lift our pedal because we've got the rest, and then pedal change, and then rest, pedal change, and then inner side chord, and getting louder. So, and that's the climactic moment. So I was just trying to check the chords, but if we go from the beginning, I'll go from tempo anime. And then we have our chords 2, 3, 1. We just want to be careful that they're not drowning out that. And then we yield, Sedegen, and then we're soft. So we've very quickly gone from forte down to soft. And so if I was counting 2 and 3, 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. So what we're going to use 1 and 2, caterpillar, 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 1, and then we're into our on surround. So that's on the count and again, just like we demonstrated earlier. 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 getting slower. 2, 3 and 1 and 2 and now gentleness chord 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and let go of the inner chord and just keep holding that. Now in this case it hasn't kept the sound, but I need to let go of the pedal. So here's my pedal down, here's my chord which is there, and then I have my count 1 and then I let go of the pedal and all the notes except the top note. 2 and 3 and a little more slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and to count 2 we let go and 3 and pedal down. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and then more and more slow and very quiet until the finish. But we don't want it to slow down to a stop. So I usually just give a little bit of speed here so that we've got somewhere to go. And that makes it easier to slow down and slow, no pedal for that rest bit. And then change the pedal on that note and getting slower. And this is dying away. 2 and 3 and it's as gentle as you can. So yes, you're pressing down, but imagine everything's floating up. And 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. I've taken my pedal off. When I get to count 6, I'm going to put my pedal down again. And then I go down to my note and I'm going to play it quietly with a nice scratching staccato. And as soon as I play it, I let go of my pedal. Now, obviously that was too slow with all the talking for the notes to continue. But with a sense of continuity, we get the pedal ready and we release. I'll try and talk through and play it. So here we go, just a little bit faster to get it moving again. Rest, and I lifted my pedal for those rests. Change pedal, let go of the pedal for those 2 notes. Pedal down, pedal down, pedal down. 1 pedal down, 3, 4, 5, 6, off. And then everything comes off together. So hopefully that's helped. There's been a lot of toing and throwing because there's lots of elements to think about in this piece. Exactly where you lift the pedal, bringing out the melody, softening the inner parts, and getting the counting right, and then what to do about the rubato. So a lot's marked in, not all rubato's marked in. So you'll notice, oh, well, you sped up a little bit there. We want to keep the music moving forward. We want to give a sense of the phrasing. So our rubato shows the shape of the phrase, but so do our dynamics. And then, of course, it also does what he tells us to do, and he tells us to get slower and so forth. So there's a fair few things to think about. The notes, learning the notes is probably the easy part. It doesn't feel like it at first because of all the flats. You just have to be really careful which notes are holding. So don't let go of notes early, and in your first stage, practice without the pedal so that you can hear the note, the rests, and make sure that they're all happening in the right place. Because the last thing we want is our fingers holding through rests. Even if maybe our pedal is, we don't want the fingers to do that. So good luck with learning the piece, and we will see your beautiful recordings soon.